Danilo, we just had a downgrade from Andy Barish. He was one of the first on the street to go negative in the wake of Nichols' takeover. Why do you think, unlike him, who says it's going to take some time to brew a fresh pot, that a turnaround here is more imminent for the stock?
Yeah, I would say, look, everybody is excited about Brian Niccol joining Starbucks, and so were we from the first day. Clearly, the level of operational experience that he brings to Starbucks is going to be fundamental to create a glide path toward an acceleration of the stock. At the same time, what I was really worried about in the first month, since Brian joined, was that maybe the street expectations were elevated on the timeline for the turnaround to happen, as well as the implication for 2025. And specifically, I think that in order for the stock to be reaccelerating, there needs to be some heavy level of investment in both people as well as CapEx, so that you can return on these investments starting in 2026. Now, I got much more confidence over the past month that, at least on the buy side, the expectations for 2025 are much more limited than what I thought they were. Most of the investors I spoke with are, assuming that it's going to be a slowdown in 25. And so now I think it's probably the right time to get into the stock.
So let me ask you about China, because a couple of weeks ago, the pertinent question to ask was whether Starbucks should divest that entire unit. What were your thoughts on it then? What are your thoughts on it now? And do their stimulus efforts play any role in brightening prospects for its performance there?
Yeah, excellent question. I would say I think that the presence of Starbucks in China is still an overhang on the stock. And I say it because the outcome in China is quite uncertain. Yes, we know that there's going to be like a stimulus check that might be helping consumer spending behavior over time. But the ramifications and the timeline of that to happen is still quite uncertain. At the same time, this overhang or these fluctuations in performance in China really bears some uncertainty also on the trajectory of the stock, because there are many investors in the US who may not be necessarily willing to step into the stock without knowing how the situation is going to be evolving in China. So I think, given the consumer uncertainty as well as the amount of competition that Starbucks has seen in China, finding some partnership or a JV or even a spin-off of Starbucks China would be liberating the stock from this overhang.
So you still think a partnership or a spin-up, and as you point out, despite making up almost 20% of their total units, China's contributions to revenue and operating profit are only 9% and 8% respectively. So people might ask, why on earth would you spin off something you put so much money into? But if it's a small part of the business and arguably an overhang, maybe you do. Is that simply because of competitive pressures, or might they look at it and say, listen, in 5 years, 10 years time, that expanding middle class Peter Boockvar told us about, they are still going to be Starbucks customers who someday could help our comps and our overall financial performance there?
Yeah, I think the premium positioning in China is still quite protected so far. The growth in China has been primarily coming from the coffee mass market with the rise of coffee, the rise of Luckin Cup. And so we do think that there is still a space for Starbucks to be playing in China. Right now, though, we see that the consumer discretionary spend is coming down. The kind of growth in competition is still an uncertain path, so it could be starting to get into a more premium positioning. And more importantly, from a management bandwidth standpoint, I think investors will want to see management really focused on fixing the United States first before venturing in China. And that would be leading to a faster acceleration of same-store sales before you then have to think about China. And I don't know if there is enough patience to do both at the same time.